So it turns out there are 4 different forms of the word porque in Spanish. I know this might seem a little confusing, but don't worry, we're gonna go over each one and how to pronounce each one and the meaning difference in each one of these 4 forms so that you can use them correctly. So before we get into each one in more detail, I want to just quickly go over what the 4 forms of porque are so that you can see how they are differentiated with an accent or with a space in the word. And the first one we're going to look at is porque, all one word with the accent on the E on the end. The second one we're going to look at still with the accent on the end, but porque, broken up into 2 separate words. And then following this, we're going to look at porqué, and this is 2 words with no accent. Then we're going to look at porqué, all one word with no accent. So we're going to go into these 4 forms so that you can know when you should use the accent and when you should separate them into 2 words. All right, we're actually going to start with porque, 2 words with the accent, and porque, all one word with no accent, because these are the 2 forms that you probably learned first if you've already been studying Spanish, and if you haven't, these are the easier forms to start with. So the first one, porque, with the accent, with the space, this is basically the equivalent of why in English, like when you're asking a question. Why this? Why would you do that? Porque. And this has the accent on the end to distinguish it from the other form, which we'll get into a little bit more in a few minutes. And the other form, porque, all one word with no accent. This is translated as because in English, and that's about all there is to it. This one's pretty straightforward. So let's first look at, as we're going into the other forms, let's first look at the 2 that are one word because they're a little simpler to distinguish between. So we're going to start with porque, all one word with the accent, and then porque, all one word with no accent. And as I mentioned before, the porque with no accent, that's all one word. This is because in English, and the other one, you can also remember it kind of as because it's the reason for something. So the one without the accent translates to because, so you can say like, hice esto porque quería. I did this because I wanted to. Or you could say, esto es el porqué de todo. This is the reason for everything. So very different, these 2 forms, but really have the same root meaning in that the one with the accent is the reason, and then the one without the accent is explaining the reason that's going to come. All right, and then the other 2 forms are with the space in between the 2 words. We have porque with the accent, this is why, and this is where it gets a little bit confusing. The other one, porque with the space with no accent. This one is also why, but it's not the same type of word. Basically, both of these words start with the preposition por, and then the second word is either an interrogative or a relative pronoun. And the one with the accent, that is your interrogative, and then the other one without the accent, that is your relative pronoun. So the one with the interrogative, the porque, with the accent, this is just your why, like why, asking a question, why did you do this, why are we here? That is your question, your interrogative. And then the other one, your relative pronoun. This one is the one that's a little bit more difficult for many people to understand because it also can translate to why, but the place of this word in a sentence is much different than an interrogative. So you wouldn't usually see it at the beginning of a word in most cases. You will usually see it in the middle, and it's kind of like that or which, or for even. So if you want to say like, es el motivo por el que te llamé. This is the reason that I called you. And this example actually is from the Real Academia Española, because I really wanted to make sure that I got this one right for you. So all of this information is double checked with the Real Academia Española dictionary. And yeah, I just want to let you guys know this example came from there. The other ones came just off the top of my head because, as I mentioned, this is the one that a lot of people struggle with, myself included as a Spanish learner. So, es el motivo por el que te llamé. This is the reason that I called, and it's using that word, and this is really tricky for a lot of people, so don't be too hard on yourself if it takes you a little while to kind of understand this one. It's a concept that even in English I'm still kind of working on, honestly, and I think I'm going to do a video about this in the future once I get a little bit better a grasp and have some time to do some more research on relative pronouns. So you guys, please let me know down in the comments below if this is something that you're also interested in learning more on. And what I'm thinking about for this video actually is doing some research on relative pronouns in English and then in Spanish as well, and looking at that topic in linguistics as a whole, and then looking at it in Spanish, of course, but also in English, because it is really important to understand this grammar concept in order to learn the language. So let me know if that's something that you would be interested in. And let's wrap up this PORQUÉ video. So as an overview of all four of these porqués, the first two, really, let's go over the first two that we first discussed. The porqué accent with two words, space, this is a Y, first one you're probably gonna learn, and then porqué, all one word with no accent, because, and then porqué with an accent, that is all one word, that one is your reason, your porqué, your reason, and porqué, the two separate words with the accent, the relative pronoun, the one that's a little tricky, that's the last one. Alright, I hope that you guys found this helpful for understanding the difference between the four porqués in Spanish. And as always, let me know down in the comments below if you have anything to add on or if you have any questions for me. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. I will see you guys back here on Monday. Ciao!